the 8 types of commercial real estate. Now, we're going to go over each one of these types in detail where you can get a basic understanding of what you're looking at and what you're talking about, most importantly. Now, there is a little bit of overlap between commercial and residential property. We're going to talk about what that overlap is, and I'm going to explain how you separate the two. So let's jump into first, what is the definition of commercial? Commercial, concerned with or engaged in commerce, making or intended to make a profit. So anytime you hear commercial, that's the line you're stepping over. So residential does not mean that. It means the opposite, right? It's intended for somebody to live in. Commercial is intended for somebody to make a profit on that asset. All right, let's go down and we're going to get into the first type. We're going to talk about multifamily. So multifamily properties are the go-between for residential and commercial real estate. While they can serve primarily as a residency, the general purpose for the property type is for investment, owner-occupied or not. The multifamily asset class includes everything from a duplex up through multi-hundred unit apartment buildings. Now, we have duplex, which is a 2-unit rental property, a triplex, which is a 3-unit rental property, a quadruplex, which is 4 units. Now, the plex property types are found in virtually every market, but are more for the beginning investors and those that would like to make a profit on their own residence by renting out other units. Apartment buildings, on the other hand, are typically distinguished as being low, mid, or high-rise based on the amount of stories they can have. So let's break this down a little bit more, and we're going to talk about a duplex. So if we have one building, one door, this is not commercial. Can it be commercial? Yes. It can be commercial if we get it zoned correctly. There's residential zoning and there's commercial zoning. Zoning is essentially your permit or the city or county to say, okay, you can use this property for this. So if we have residential zoning, then what that means is you can only use this property to live in as a primary residence. For instance, if we have this house and we live in it, but also we run a business out of it, well, now we're using it to make a profit. Now, there are ways you can do this in your own home. We're not going to talk about those ways today. What I want you to take away from this is, at a certain point, you will end up crossing into the commercial regulations, and you would have to ask permission to get that property rezoned in order to continue to operate your business. That does happen. Now, let's get into duplex. So this is a single family, SFR. Now, if we take it and we add another roof and another building with another door, front and back. This can be separated or together as long as it's on the same parcel. So this parcel is the land. So when we pull up zoning, which we will talk about in a later lesson, we're going to look at the parcel, and if this is 2 properties on the same parcel, then it would be considered a duplex, 2-unit rental properties. Most of the time, they're always going to be attached. Majority of all the time, you're going to see duplexes, they will be attached. Meaning, it'll be like this. One building, 2 front doors, and 2 back doors. Now this duplex is commercial. It is for multifamily. And as you can see on the document we just reviewed, it talks about that multifamily is 2 doors all the way up to hundreds plus. Now the question is this duplex zone commercial? Can you do or assume residential benefits? For instance, residential benefits would be on the mortgage side. We can go get a 30-year loan. And normally you can get, they'll actually lend on it just like they would your single family or primary residence, because they're going to consider it your primary residence as long as you live in one unit and you can rent the other ones out. And because you're going to live in that one unit, then you can get a 30-year loan on it or a regular conventional loan, and those rates are lower and the term is longer. So that's one of the benefits. Now, to clarify, because I'm pretty sure you're probably confused right now if you already do not understand what I'm talking about. To clarify, on the duplex, triplex, and quadplex, those are actually single family residences. Anything from 2 doors to 4 is considered multifamily, and it's also considered single family whenever it comes to the lending requirements. So this is where we're going to separate. You have lending requirements, and the lending requirements will require for the property to have 4 or less doors or units. And then we can get a regular conventional loan. Property types, you would consider this to be multifamily. And it's simply understood as there's more than one families living in that building, so it is multifamily. Again, just to beat this home, the lending requirements allows you to get conventional funding for 4 or less doors. Once you make it outside of 4 doors, and now you have 5 doors, so if you got 5, because of this door right here, you're now going to have to get a commercial loan. The majority of all conventional lenders do not lend on commercial properties, and they'll consider that to be 5 or more doors. So the takeaway, multifamily can be commercial or residential. Residential, 4 or less doors. Commercial, 5 or more doors. So multifamily can be both residential or commercial. And there's your lending requirements. Now let's go back and we're going to look at garden apartments. So suburban garden apartments started popping up in the 1960s, 70s. Young people moved from the urban centers to the suburbs. Garden apartments are typically 3 to 4 stories with 50 to 400 units, no elevators, and surface parking. Essentially, it is a collection of low-rise apartment buildings on one piece of property, those of which may share yard or other land space. Mid-rise apartments. These properties are usually 5 to 12 stories with between 30 to 110 units and an elevator service. These are often constructed in urban infill locations. High-rise apartments. High-rise apartments are found in larger markets, usually have 100 plus units, and are professionally managed. The number of stories is less explicit for high-rise buildings, but typically once you exceed 10 to 12 stories, most markets will consider the building as a high-rise. Once a high-rise building exceeds 40 stories and meets a certain height, it's generally considered a skyscraper. So overall, we have garden, which is your lower level apartments. So they're 3 to 4 stories. And then once we leave to the 5th story, we're at a mid-rise. Once we leave the 12th story, we're at a high-rise. And once we leave a 40 story, we're at a skyscraper. So let's go back. We've got one building. And once we have this is going to be 4, 3, 2, 1 stories. Okay, that's your garden apartments. And then if you continue stacking on top of that, 5 to 12 stories, that's going to be your mid-rise apartments. If we continue to go up, 12 to 40, that's your high-rise. And then if we continue to go up, we've got our skyscraper. Now, overall, this is your main takeaway from multifamily. This is it. There's definitely units, there's definitely more that involves, but to keep it very simple, this is as farthest as we're going to dive into what multifamily is. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know.